Over the past few years, I have been more and more put off by the Mario games. Ever since Super Mario Galaxy, Mario has, instead of being an innovator, has become generic and predictable. Most of this comes from the new Super Mario Bros. Series. Their original intentions were to play off nostalgia, but after 4 games, they are now very samey. The main series Mario games have also been suffering from the same problem, with Galaxy 2 being a direct sequel, and Super Mario 3D Land having next to nothing in it to separate it from the other Mario games. Nintendo used to try new things with the main games in the Mario series, like the holiday theme of Super Mario Sunshine, but they now seem to be unwilling to give their games their own unique charm. It's why I wasn't excited for Super Mario 3D World, as it looked like yet another by-the-numbers Mario game. I still ended up picking it up thanks to the critical acclaim it received when released, and none of the recent Mario games have been bad, just a little bland. So, does Super Mario 3D World deserve to be placed along the classic titles like Super Mario Bros. 3, Super Mario World and Super Mario 64, or will it be forgotten just like New Super Mario Bros. 2? Let's have a look. The story is that Bowser has captured these fairy creatures called Sprixies and taken over the Sprixie Kingdom. Mario, Luigi, Peach and Toad chase after Bowser into the Sprixie Kingdom to stop him and save the day. While it's nice that Peach is no longer the one being kidnapped, the story is almost pointless. I don't expect a complex, thought-provoking plot, but it would have been nice to have a more interesting setting. Even though the game takes place in a new kingdom, it might as well be the Mushroom Kingdom, as there's nothing about it that makes it stand out. What was the point in having a game take place in a whole new area if you weren't going to do anything different? I don't think it's laziness, I would guess it's more keeping it accessible for everyone to play. One of the producers of the game said how he felt that Super Mario Galaxy was more geared towards boys as it used a lot of blue colours and was set in space, and this was something he wasn't entirely happy with. I don't think it's completely wrong with what he said, but if it means we get games like Super Mario 3D World where anything that might appeal to a certain group is stripped away, then I think that's a real shame. And even this sort of attitude is still no excuse for the fact that there are no cutscenes or dialogue throughout the whole game apart from the beginning and the very end. The gameplay is very similar to Super Mario 3D Land. You run through linear 3D levels with the goal being to reach the flagpole at the end of the level. It's sort of a mix between the 3D style of Mario games and the 2D style. The level of control you get in the game is almost perfect. Controlling Mario feels so natural and the jumping is type enough that you can be skillful with your jumps, but any mistake you make is your own. The controls are very simple. You move with the analog stick, one button jumps, one runs and the other crouches. You are limited in your moveset when compared to Super Mario 64, but you still have moves like the ground pound, the long jump and the side jump. The running has been slightly changed. If you hold the run button for a short amount of time, you get an extra boost in speed. It's a small change, but it allows for pure running sections in levels and lets you choose between taking your time and charging through levels as quick as you can. Unfortunately, you can't take your time too much, as each level has a timer on it. There isn't that much to see and explore in each level, as they are fairly linear, but I would have really appreciated if I could take as long as I want and not have to worry about a pointless time limit. I never found myself running out of time on any level, so it's not too bad, there's just no reason for it being there. The biggest feature of this game is the co-op. You can play through any levels with up to 4 people at once. It's the first time the Mario games have attempted co-op in a 3D game, and for the most part it works great. As the levels are relatively simple, the camera never has much trouble keeping everyone on screen, but if someone gets left behind, they turn into a bubble and return to the rest of the group. Playing the game in co-op has its positives and negatives. The positives are that you can have a laugh with other people you're playing with, and it can make certain sections a bit easier. As this game is 3D, you don't bump into each other as much as you did in the new Super Mario Bros. Games, which is nice. The negatives are that if you're trying to seriously get to the end of the game and get 100%, it can be more annoying than it's worth getting everyone to work together properly. Also, while I complimented the controls earlier, for some reason the button that lets you run and use power-ups is also the same button that lets you pick up the other players. You will constantly pick up the other players when you didn't mean to, and for the most part this is harmless, but there were times in the game where somebody would lose a life because they were accidentally picked up and thrown. The reason that it's the same button is because you can play this game with just the Wiimote, which doesn't have enough buttons to have a separate button for picking up people. It's nice that they allowed the option to use the Wiimote, but you can also use the Gamepad, Pro Controller, Wiimote and Nunchuck, and Classic Controller, which all have unused buttons, so this could have been easily avoided. The game takes place over 8 different worlds. Instead of just selecting levels, you walk through a world that you have limited control on and select levels by walking up to them. It's a slightly more interactive world map screen from Super Mario Bros. 3, but ultimately it's completely pointless. There's nothing interesting about it, and seeming how it's a main series Mario game, it's disappointing that they didn't even try. While each world does have its own theme, they don't matter in the least. Most of the levels will fit into the world theme, but then other levels will just be completely different and out of nowhere. For example, World 4 has a rocky canyon theme, but the second level takes place in a jungle, while the third level takes place in space. It isn't a major complaint, but it does mean that the game feels like a random collection of levels rather than something with a real beginning and end. While in the world map, you will also find Captain Toad levels, where you take control of Captain Toad in small areas where you have to collect 5 stars. The twist is that Captain moves at a very slow pace, and his jump is almost pointless. As a distraction from the main game, these levels are really cool to check out, and I personally love waddling around as Captain Toad while his music plays. I have been complaining a lot throughout this review, but let's get to why this game is actually great and you should play it. The level design is polished and perfect, and it proves that no one can beat Nintendo when it comes to making interesting, fun platformers. The challenge is just right, finding secrets is just right, and there are no real flaws to the core gameplay. It's effortlessly enjoyable and everything is in perfect balance. This has been true for most of the recent Mario games, but where this game succeeds where the others fails is the large amount of creativity. Sure, you have levels where you're just running through grassy hills as usual, but you also have a circus in space, a Mario Kart level, you get to run on top of a Bowser train, there's one section where you have to hide from spotlights with a Goomba suit, and many more examples of this. There aren't many major wow moments, but there are plenty of cool surprises throughout, and it helps make the game really stand out. This might sound odd to anyone who hasn't played this game, but it has an almost magical quality to it, where it makes you feel like a child again. There were glimpses of this in New Super Mario Bros. U, but Super Mario 3D World takes it to a whole new level. It makes my complaint about the game feeling like a collection of level almost mute, as it means you don't know what you're going to see next, you just know it's going to be good. Let's talk about the power-ups. Returning from the older games are the Normal Mushroom, Mega Mushroom, Starman, Fire Flower, Hammer Bros suit, the Tanuki suit and the Propeller Box. They're all great power-ups and they're just as fun to use here as they were originally. New for this game are the Cat Suit, the Double Cherry and the Cannon Box. The Cannon Box can be a pain to use as it constantly fires, so expect to accidentally shoot everyone else if you're playing in co-op. With the Cat Suit you can claw at enemies, climb at walls and dive at an angle. While the Cat Suit is a bit silly, so are most of the Mario power-ups, and the Cat Suit can be really resourceful without being overpowered. The Double Cherry gives you a clone of your character that you control at the same time. You can pick up more than one, so you can collect as many Marios as you want at one time. I don't know what it is, but there's something really enjoyable about controlling multiple people at once, and it's also cool to see just how many you can get at once. There's one power-up that I haven't mentioned yet, and that's the White Tanuki suit. If you die too many times, you get given a suit that makes you invincible. I wouldn't mind this as a way of helping people who get stuck, but the problem with this is that there's no punishment from using it. If you die too many times going after a collectible, you can just use the White Tanuki suit to get it and it counts as if you got it legitimately. It doesn't matter too much, but it can make trying to get past a hard section a complete waste of time when you can just turn invincible and skip it. The game is also a good length and took me around 8 hours to beat, and that's without collecting all the green stars hidden in each level. Super Mario 3D World is a game I both love and hate. I hate what it represents, which is Nintendo playing it safe and trying to appeal to everyone because of the low sales of the GameCube and the high sales of the Wii. When I'm actually playing the game itself though, it's one of the most fun video game experiences I've ever had, and is one of the most expertly made platformers ever made. Once I pick up that controller, almost all of my complaints melt away and I just enjoy myself. The things I moaned about in this review are true and are real flaws, but nothing that takes away from the game too much. It's the best game on the Wii U and turns 3D Land into an embarrassing waste of time. My score is 9.0 out of 10. If you want a charming, well-made 3D platformer, you would have a hard time finding any better than Super Mario 3D World.